When an Amish person dies, 500 people attend the funeral within 3 days. But the community's support does not end there. For the next year, they visit the grieving family every Sunday. Here is the complete tradition from death to remembrance. News spreads. When an Amish person dies, the news spreads quickly despite having no phones, internet, or social media. Word travels by horse and buggy. A family member visits the homes of church members to deliver the news personally. Within hours, the entire church district knows. Neighboring districts are notified the same day. Relatives in distant settlements receive telegrams or messages through non-Amish neighbors. By evening, hundreds of people across multiple states know someone has passed away. The funeral will happen in 3 days. Everyone is expected to attend if physically able. Death in the community is everyone's concern. Body preparation. The body is taken to a local funeral home for embalming. The funeral director is instructed not to apply makeup or make cosmetic corrections. The body must remain plain and natural. After embalming, the family retrieves the body and dresses it at home. The deceased is dressed entirely in white. White clothing symbolizes purity and the hope of resurrection. Men wear white shirts and pants. Women wear white dresses and head coverings. The body is placed in a simple wooden casket built by members of the community. The casket is plain pine with no lining or embellishments. It is functional, not ornamental. The casket is brought into the family's home and placed in the main room. The lid remains open for viewing. 2-4-hour viewing. The viewing begins immediately and continues for 24 hours. The body lies in the open casket in the family's living room. Family, friends, and community members come and go throughout the day and night. People arrive when they can. Some stay for minutes. Others sit with the family for hours. Visitors file past the casket, pausing to look at the deceased. Children are not shielded from death. Parents lift young children up to see into the casket. The Amish believe children should understand death as a natural part of life. The family sits nearby, receiving condolences. Neighbors bring food. Women help in the kitchen. Men prepare benches for the funeral service. The viewing is not a celebration of life. It is a somber acknowledgement of death. Tears are shed, but emotional outbursts are discouraged. Grief is private, handled quietly through faith. Funeral service. The funeral service takes place the day after the viewing, typically in the home of the deceased or in a barn if the family's house is too small. The service begins at 9 in the morning. Benches are arranged in rows just as they are for regular church services. Men sit on one side, women sit on the other. The casket sits at the front, open for the duration of the service. Ministers from the local church district and visiting ministers from neighboring districts lead the service. Everything is conducted in German or Pennsylvania Dutch. The service follows the structure of a regular Amish church service. It begins with hymn singing from the Ausbund. The singing is slow and mournful. There are no musical instruments. The first sermon lasts about 20 minutes. It addresses the certainty of death and the need for readiness to meet God. The second sermon lasts an hour. It reviews scripture passages about death, resurrection, and eternal life. There is no eulogy. The deceased's life is not publicly praised or celebrated. Individual accomplishments are not mentioned. The focus is on submission to God's will and the hope of resurrection. Everyone attends. Attendance at Amish funerals is not optional. When someone in the community dies, everyone is expected to attend unless physically unable. Farmers leave their fields. Shop owners close their businesses. Mothers bring their children. The elderly are helped into buggies by family members and brought to the service. Distant relatives travel from other states. Some arrive the night before and stay with local families. The result is massive attendance. Funerals for well-known or long-lived community members regularly draw 500 or more people. In some cases, attendance reaches 600 or 700. The funeral must accommodate this crowd. If the service is held in a home, people fill every room. Benches are placed in the living room, kitchen, basement, and even upstairs bedrooms. Windows are opened so those standing outside can hear. In some cases, the service is held in multiple locations simultaneously. Ministers preach in the main building, while other ministers preach the same sermon in a second building nearby. The size of the funeral reflects the value the Amish place on community solidarity. No one grieves alone. No one faces death without the support of hundreds. Procession to cemetery. After the funeral service, the casket is closed and carried out of the house. It is loaded onto a horse-drawn hearse wagon. This is a specially designed wagon with a flat bed that can carry a casket. The immediate family follows behind in their buggies. The extended family and friends fall in line behind them. The procession moves slowly down the road toward the cemetery. If the cemetery is nearby, the entire procession travels by horse and buggy. If the cemetery is far away, the casket may be transported by car while the family follows. The procession can stretch for a mile or more depending on attendance. Buggies move in a long line, horses walking at a steady pace, onlookers who see the procession stop and wait respectfully. Cars pull over to let the buggies pass. The sight of dozens or hundreds of black buggies moving together is striking. The journey to the cemetery is silent. There is no music, no conversation. Just the sound of hooves on pavement and the creaking of buggy wheels. The procession itself is a statement. The community escorts the dead to their final resting place together. Burial. The grave has been dug by hand by men from the community. They arrived at the cemetery early in the morning with shovels and began digging. Digging a grave by hand takes hours, but it is considered an act of service and respect. When the procession arrives at the cemetery, the casket is carried to the grave and lowered by ropes. The immediate family gathers close. The rest of the community stands in a wide circle around the grave. A minister says a final prayer in German. The prayer is brief. When it concludes, the men who dug the grave begin filling it in. They shovel dirt onto the casket while the family watches. This process is not rushed. It takes 30 minutes or more to fill the grave completely. Some family members and close friends stay until the grave is filled and mounded. Others return to their buggies and begin the journey back. By the time the grave is completely filled, only a small group remains. The burial is complete. The body has been returned to the earth. The community has fulfilled its duty to accompany the deceased to the end. Funeral feast. After the burial, the community gathers for a meal. This meal is served at the home where the funeral service was held. Because attendance is so large, the meal is served cafeteria style rather than in seated shifts. Long tables are set up in the yard or in a barn. Dishes of food are placed on the tables and people serve themselves. The food has been prepared by women from the community over the previous 2 days. Common dishes include homemade bread, soup, chicken, noodles, mashed potatoes, and vegetables. Desserts include pies and cookies. The meal is simple and filling. It is not a celebration. Conversations are quiet. People eat and visit with each other as they would after any church service. The family of the deceased is present but does not serve. Others have taken over that responsibility. The meal serves a practical purpose. It feeds hundreds of people who have been at the funeral for hours, but it also serves a symbolic purpose. It demonstrates that the community is providing for the family in their time of need. The family does not have to cook. They do not have to clean. They are being cared for. Weekly visits. The funeral is not the end of community support. For the next year, the community visits the bereaved family every Sunday. This is not casual visiting. It is a structured tradition. After Sunday church services, families take turns going to the home of the grieving family. They sit with them, they talk, they share a meal. The visits continue every week for 12 months. The purpose is to ensure the family does not face grief alone. The first weeks after a death are the hardest. The house feels empty. The routine is disrupted. The loss is overwhelming. But every Sunday, the family knows someone will come. Someone will sit with them. Someone will remind them they are not alone. As the year progresses, the visits become less frequent. But the tradition ensures that the family is supported through the first painful months. By the end of the year, the family has adjusted to the loss. Life has resumed some normalcy. The weekly visits have carried them through the worst of the grief. This tradition is one of the most significant aspects of Amish mourning. The community does not abandon the family after the funeral. They walk with them through the long process of healing. Plain gravestone. Amish gravestones are as plain as Amish life. They are small, simple, and identical. Most are made of plain stone with no decoration. The marker includes the deceased's name and the years of birth and death. Nothing more. No Bible verses. No phrases like beloved father or devoted mother. No photos or engravings. In some conservative communities, the gravestone is even plainer. It may be a simple wooden marker with only the deceased's initials carved into it. The plainness reflects Amish values. In life, the Amish avoid drawing attention to themselves. In death, the same principle applies. The gravestone does not elevate the deceased above others. It does not celebrate individual accomplishments. It simply marks the spot where the body rests. Amish cemeteries are tended by the community. Grass is mowed, weeds are pulled, but there are no flowers, wreaths, or decorations. The cemetery is plain and orderly. Walking through an Amish cemetery, the gravestones all look the same. This uniformity is intentional. Everyone is equal in death. No one is honored above another. The grave is a temporary resting place until the resurrection. The layout of Amish cemeteries also reflects their values. Plots are not sold or reserved in advance. Instead, burials happen in the order of death. The cemetery fills gradually, row by row. Family members are not necessarily buried next to each other unless their deaths happen close together. This practice reinforces that the individual is less important than the community. Even in death, personal preference does not override the collective order. Some Amish cemeteries are located on private land owned by the church district. Others are shared with Mennonite or other plain communities. The cemeteries are maintained by volunteer work parties. Several times a year, men from the community gather to mow, trim, and keep the grounds orderly. No one is paid for this work. It is considered a service to the community and to the memory of those who have passed. Visiting the cemetery is not a ritual for most Amish families. Unlike other cultures that regularly visit graves, place flowers, or hold memorial services at gravesites, the Amish view the cemetery as simply a place where bodies await resurrection. The dead are remembered in hearts and minds, not through elaborate gravestone tributes or frequent cemetery visits. The simplicity of the gravestone is a final testament to a life lived in humility. The Amish funeral tradition brings 500 people together because the Amish believe grief should never be carried alone. When someone dies, the entire community responds. They take off work. They travel long distances. They attend a 3-hour service conducted entirely in German. They follow the casket to the cemetery in a long procession of buggies. They hand-dig the grave and fill it in while the family watches. They feed hundreds of people at the funeral meal. And then, for the next year, they visit the family every Sunday to ensure they are not forgotten. This is not a tradition reserved for close friends or prominent members. This is what happens when anyone in the community dies. Elderly farmers, young mothers, children, everyone receives the same response. 500 people showing up. The tradition is rooted in the belief that the community is responsible for its members from birth to death and beyond. The Amish do not delegate grief to funeral homes or professional mourners. They handle death themselves. They prepare the body. They build the casket. They dig the grave. They feed the mourners. They visit the family for a year. Every step is done by the community. This is why Amish funerals are so well attended. It is not just about honoring the deceased. It is about supporting the living. It is about demonstrating that no one faces loss alone. 500 people attend because that is what community means. Showing up, staying present, carrying each other through the hardest moments of life. The funeral is 3 days. The support is 1 year. And the memory of that support lasts a lifetime.